We're actually recording on a Sunday night, but it's not a race review, it's actually a race preview. And that's because of how crazy the timings are for the Miami Grand Prix. And we're okay with this kind of crazy, Kunal. We're okay with this because it's really leading up to a great weekend of Formula One action where we've had the youngest ever pole sitter in F1 history, followed by a crazy sprint race where yet again a safety car benefits Lando Norris at Miami and gives him the win. But following that, a pole position from Max Verstappen when we least expected it. It's been a weekend full of home runs, or shall I say touchdowns, because it's the Miami GP, and we're at the Hard Rock Stadium, the home of the Dolphins. But yeah, today it's counting for a really good main event, and we've got so many big stories we have got to keep an eye on.
We do. Will the safety car benefit Lando Norris yet again? That's that main story I'm going to track. But I'll also tell you this, Somal, that the reason why we are doing this preview, which is even though you and Sundaram did a preview a few days ago, is
Yeah.
uh, I am, of course, in Mumbai for a few days, and I feel the pain of these American races. The races at 1:30 in the morning. I know by the time I wrap up and sleep, it's going to be like 5. Okay. And now I know why all races are sequenced or scheduled to European timings. Because if I was in Oslo, I would have slept by midnight-ish, 1 o'clock, which is not too bad. But oh my goodness, that stint you're gonna put out on fan code doing Hindi commentary in the middle of the night. I'll be listening, but I hope you've got all your energy drinks by your side.
Yeah, you. This is the kind of weekend where you need a Red Bull, and we've kind of gotten used to it here on the Inside Line F1 podcast. When we went to the Motor Jam as well, the biggest motorsport event in India, that was crazy. And for those sort of high energy situations, you need to be super prepared. For us, it's a little harder because it's late in the night. But I'm thinking for the teams and drivers, they don't need that added pressure of odd hours to make it crazy for them because it's already so high intensity for each of these teams, particularly what's happening at McLaren. Because one way to look at it, Kunal, is that they've let yet another podium driver down. Because Lando Norris has actually managed to finish second in the race, and Verstappen has finished third. And we are here. Yeah.
Yeah, something happened.
Issues. That's unfortunate. Well, part and
Well,
parcel of life. I almost
you
froze.
said we need a Red Bull. Well, guess what? Our systems need a Red Bull. They've been, up through the midnights, churning out, running, crunching all that data, churning out all the content. But I'll tell you what else needs a Red Bull: Formula One. And this time, they don't just need a Red Bull, they also need a Mercedes because,
Yeah.
up until now, it was Max Verstappen breaking into the McLaren stronghold in qualifying. Guess what? Andrea Kimi Antonelli has struck again. I am definitely putting him in for the podium positions this race weekend. I think he's in it. He's in it for good. He's suddenly taken that step up, and I loved how he summed up yesterday, saying, I'm finding confidence through the session, through the race weekends. He's never driven here in Miami. He's, of course, had a sprint weekend. He's been quicker, more comfortable than George Russell. And then he signed off by saying, I can't wait to get to Europe where I already know those circuits. So I'm putting Kimi Antonelli on the podium this race weekend.
And there's a really good omen for that. Because the last time a driver in a Silver Arrows made their debut and absolutely outshone the field and went on to win their first ever Formula One race in their rookie season, it was 2007 in round 6 of the Formula One World Championship at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in North America, Canada, where Lewis Hamilton won his first ever F1 race. Could it be that his replacement at Mercedes does the same this weekend? Just saying, it's a possibility because he starts third. And we have seen this, Kunal. Lando Norris, he's not unbreakable at the race start. It's possible, it's doable. And Kimi would have definitely learned so many lessons from yesterday where Oscar Piastri just absolutely sliced away any opportunity for Kimi to take that lead or to maintain that lead heading into turn one. He was picture perfect, Kunal. Oscar just putting the car in the right place, following the regulations to a T, making sure that legally nothing was wrong, and he didn't put any extra force than what was required. And he got turn one, and he got P1 at turn one as well. It's almost surgically done. So Kimi would have learned a lot from that.
Yeah, so all eyes on the race start. Lando Norris, he said he's trying to do better. He's going to do different, and I hope by that he means that he will make some overtakes rather than getting overtaken on the opening lap. And he said that Max put out a Max lap. I love it when Lando, you know, gives Max Verstappen compliments when he should get one. We've pretty much seen, simply lovely becoming a meme, and then all luck, no talent, etc. And now when he said Max did a Max lap, that's what actually happened. Lando shouldn't do a Lando start. Whether it's a jump
Come
start,
on.
whether it's a jump
Come
start.
on. That's ruthless of you.
Yeah, I mean, but I must say, we all wanted Lando Norris to bounce back, and he did. He was faster than Piastri. He didn't mess it up. And then, the margins are so small that somehow Max Verstappen just always is on the right side of the margins more than the McLaren drivers. He's, of course, got the most pole
Yeah.
positions for any driver in 2025. Who would have imagined? And, I'd be wondering, and I'm saying this in the preview, I'm going to say this in the review, whatever, yeah, the review as well. Would McLaren be wondering if they should have Max in the car? Because every other weekend, there is at least one McLaren driver making a mistake. Yes, the margins are small, the gaps are very competitive, etc., etc. But they'd be wondering, we've got the best car. Why shouldn't we go and get the best driver? Because that's usually what we've seen in Formula One, the best driver attracting the best car, and the best car attracting the best driver. Because if Max is able to pull that out, in a Red Bull, which is not the quickest, which has got its limitations, it's visible for all of us. Why would McLaren not be thinking of Max? And I know Andrea Stella said something that Red Bull has manufactured this underdog narrative, but he knows that that is his PR statement. That's not the truth. Red Bull are the underdogs for 2025.
They have become the underdogs, I would actually say.
Yeah.
And for Max, it's interesting how this whole dynamic will play out because he is actually in a car that's definitely not as fast as the McLaren, and importantly, maybe not as good on tire management as the McLarens as well. That in the heat is going to be the primary factor. And these are the weekends when conditions are tough, when you need a Max Verstappen, because where other people make half mistakes, Verstappen takes complete control of those situations. That is what we saw yesterday. And I wouldn't go against him in holding on to the lead when he's got clear air. Of course, this circuit is very different to Suzuka. You have a lot more overtaking opportunities compared to that place because the straights are longer. And when the DRS is in effect, which the McLaren can be pretty good at, there is a genuine possibility that Max Verstappen could be caught. Or maybe even in the race strategy part, McLaren could usurp Red Bull Racing over there. Maybe they could come up with an alternate, maybe box one driver earlier, keep the other one outside, trouble Max a little bit because they've got two options. That's a possibility. But Verstappen in clear air, he's very tough to pass, Kunal. And if any of the McLaren drivers don't do anything special in the strategy, they'll have to get past Max Verstappen, which is such a scary thing to do for any Formula One driver.
Especially if your name is Max Verstappen. Especially if your name is Lando Norris. Sorry, I meant. But yeah, maybe I'm also in that Max mania. But one should be after what we've seen in qualifying yesterday. Max again was super Max, like we said. But I'll tell you what, Samuel. You spoke of strategy. You spoke of tire degradation. I think it's going to be a high tire management race if there is pre-race showers, which is what's expected. Degradation might just end up becoming higher because the circuit is greener. And Krishna is actually asking, do you think we'll have a race today? Yes, it seems
Of
like we'll
course.
have a race today. The precipitation chances are highest during the hours of the race and just before after. Thanks for joining the chat. And the stream, Krishna. But I think we'll have a race. But the showers will make the circuit greener. It'll wipe off all the rubber, which also means when the cars start the race, uh, they'll be heavier. That will dictate what compounds they use. at the start of the race as well. What I mean is, if somebody's trying an alternate strategy, going on the hard medium or soft or whatever, they will have to stick to doing conventional stuff because of the unknown track conditions. So watch out on the reconnaissance laps. This is what teams and drivers would check on grip levels. Can they try something else? Can they try a gamble? It's Pirelli's going to step softer like they're trying, but the truth also is that we will mostly have a one-stopper strategy. So that's what is expected. Teams have data from the sprint, so they know what to do in the race today. There were parc fermé conditions lifted after the sprint as well. So there are these key things that will come into play. And even though they had data from the sprint, remember, sprint was mixed conditions. It was all
Yeah.
about the crossover tire. So they don't really know what the cars and the conditions are going to be like with heavy fuel on the long runs and the usual simulations that they do with for the race pace measurements. Somal.
It's going to be interesting because the conditions will keep on changing. And as Kunal mentioned, the tarmac is not exactly perfect. So it will keep on evolving as well. And drivers will have a great challenge in warming up those tires and keeping them in the right temperature window, Kunal. Because if you don't, your tire life could be greatly hampered by that. And at a circuit like Miami, we know how crucial one or two key laps can be. For instance, if a safety car comes in, or comes out rather, in your in lap or on your out lap, how quickly can you fire up the tires or how quickly can you just get them in the right operating window? And towards the end of a long stint at a circuit where we have more often than not one of the highest track temperatures of the entire season, that is going to be very challenging for all the teams and drivers. And also generally the humidity, Kunal, because we often speak about the Miami weather and what it'll do to the cars and the tarmac and the tires, but there are humans inside the machine. And yes, these are not Singapore level humidity. These conditions are not Singapore level, but it's still quite intense for all the drivers. So it's going to be a physical race and one that could be a full push if there's less degradation as we expect it to be.
Yes, let's see how it goes, Somal. The other challenge is if there is rain, visibility is a key thing somehow for some
Yeah.
reason. Even in P2, they couldn't really see much. So, we'll have to see how that goes with the FIA managing the race as well. And I really hope we have a straightforward race purely because I don't want to stay up till 6 in the morning because there were there race delays and then whatever else. I know you and I are in the Gearbox studio with fan court tomorrow afternoon India time. So there is that bit of sleep as well. uh, Krishna is also saying, I also saw your tweet about George potentially losing the seat next year. Want to know more about it? Just one qualification. Yes, it's just one qualification. Yes, the tweet was also a bit of sarcasm because I replied to someone who talked that, George is done with and Max will sort of come in and whatever. It's just one qualifying, and that's what I meant saying just be patient. Just
Yeah.
one qualifying is not what they needed. But Kimi Antonelli actually making the jump up in qualifying was the highlight. If he continues down this road, Toto Wolff might just say, "Do I even need a Max of this generation? If I have the Max of the next generation, let's see." Lots of things up in the air. But given how Red Bull are able to turn things around from Friday to Saturday, Sommel, given how they are able to just there is this ruthless way of working on the engineering side, on the pit wall side. Even Max Verstappen, maybe they just know that they can create this magic with Max, and maybe Max knows that he can create this magic only with Red Bull. So at the moment, let's just enjoy the team pairings that we have got. And one driver I'm really eager to watch out for, Sommel, is Lewis Hamilton. First time did not make it to Q3 with Ferrari. He's going to start outside the top 10. Typically, Ferrari have better race pace. They make up the positions. But I know that I haven't bought a ticket to the DRS train, but Miami can really have DRS trains. And historically, also, if you go back to the sprint yesterday, the first part of the sprint was actually very, very, very boring. Why? Because everyone was just sitting 2 3 seconds off their rivals, managing the tires, waiting for something to happen, waiting for the crossover period to come, etc. And it was only when Yuki Tsunoda, Lewis Hamilton switched early to the dry slicks that the race came alive. Okay, so if we have a dry race in Miami, we have DRS trains, we have tire management, maybe there's going to be overtaking, like you said, only in strategy, or we're just going to have a dull race. You never know. It's going to be tough to stay up then. Good, I'm not commentating next to you on fan court.
Unlucky you, because there's reason for you to be engaged this late at night if you're commentating. If not, I remember the USGPs of old where I would just doze off. And I missed the 2018 USGP and Kimi Raikkonen's win purely because of that. Like, I remember I was just so tired. I was in bed. And my dad, who actually stayed up that day, woke me up and said, "Hey, you're missing out on this." And I just caught the last lap of Kimi Raikkonen's drive home to win the USGP. That was Kimi Raikkonen. Could be a different Kimi in town winning this race. You never know. It could may well be Williams if the things are very chaotic because they start so high up, Kunal. I mean, I do not remember Williams collectively being this high up for the longest time. It's unreal. Maybe before 2017 or something that they've got two cars within the top six, isn't it?
Yes, that's true. I think Williams are ahead of both the Mercedes cars. Carlos Sainz actually said something really beautiful. He said, "This was my best Q3 lap with the Williams, and I'm only just getting started." I love the confidence as he typically shows as Carlos Sainz, also very detailed with his answers. Alexander Albon said, we can play with strategy. We've got one car against the other or next to each other, and I'm up for a challenge of fighting with the Ferraris. Where Carlos Sainz, your favorite driver, said, "I'll maybe have to be a bit picky, and maybe Charles will pass us at some point. But all others, we will fight." And he said it was a delight to be just three tenths off pole position. So Lewis Hamilton definitely to watch for. He will have to clear the challenge of the Williams, and Williams, as we know, aren't the easiest to overtake as well. So will be exciting prospects if the race and the conditions actually deliver them to us as well, Somil.
Yeah, it's a real possibility, and that mid pack is quite exciting with so many different teams and drivers in there. I'm excited to see Haas because this time last year they were quite good here on raw pace, and their time management in the heat, particularly, is amazing. Just look at what they pulled off in Bahrain and everything they did there, and also in Japan where they got double points with Behrman and Ocon. So there's real strength there in Haas as well, and what they can achieve in this race. But the last thing that we need to cover for this race, it has to be the rain. There's a 40% chance, Kunal. If it stays dry, it's going to be very interesting. I think then all of it comes down to who gets a better jump and who's able to manage tires in clean air. But if it does rain, it all goes for a toss, and we don't know how things are going to be going. I mean, there's no clue. And Red Bull said that they've carried slightly more downforce for this particular track this weekend. That's what they think. Christian Horner said yesterday. And if it does rain, that could be a benefit for them. But the other drivers, we've got no clue. And Kimi Antonelli, how will he fare if these conditions come back around?
Kimi Antonelli actually has done really well in Formula 2 in the mixed weather conditions as well. I
Yeah.
believe, I'd
He
love to
passed
see him.
someone at Eau Rouge, didn't he?
Yeah,
In the
even in
wet.
yeah, that's correct. And so I'd love to see the challenge of the rain. Uh, Red Bull do have a little more downforce for once. They're not the quickest on the straights, which actually could mean that with DRS and three DRS zones available, Max versus Lando, Lando versus Max. Let's see how that goes. But the interesting thing, Saumil, is Red Bull are actually strongest, okay, through the slow and medium corners, which is great. Max has got a new floor. That's usually one of the corners they traded off on. And I remember in qualifying, Max Verstappen was talking to GP and they were discussing that the setup compromise they made actually gave up 1/10 on that turn 17 slow left-hand hairpin corner as we know it, right? But McLaren and Mercedes are quicker after that in the slow and medium speed corners. So I think Red Bull's got limitations. They know their limitations are pretty much down to rear tire temps. If you remember, even in
Mm.
the wet sprint race, Max's inters were basically cooking up and heating, right? So I'd love to see how all that plays out and the setup choices they've made for the Grand Prix. And McLaren and Mercedes are actually really quick, similarly on the straights from the data that I read on the telemetry as well. So lots to play out for, and let's see who else is where in the race a weekend, Somal, because I know that Pierre Gasly is of course going to start from the pit lane because he is off. He's changed his suspension as we know it. Aston Martin's had a double Q1 qualifying in qualifying, and he's Fernando Alonso, I just love it. He said to be in the top 10 in the sprint qualifying was simply illogical. We are slow in terms
Yeah.
of pace. We are at the bottom of the list. So that was that. And Leclerc, of course, he said there is no satisfaction in doing a good job, because the situation we are in is not a situation where we can expect miracles from. And I don't know, George Russell, do you think he'll be able to match Kimi Antonelli in the race? Because the way he's been outqualified throughout the race weekend has been a bit of a surprise for me.
It's interesting, and I'm not exactly sure what's not working for George. When he spoke to the media yesterday, he said that sometimes you just start the weekend on the right track and it gets better and easier for you because you already have found that baseline setup that you need to work with. A la Brazil 2022, where George Russell had the same scenario. He just magically found the right setup and was able to be better than Lewis Hamilton and even Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez at that time when the Red Bulls were dominating. So it's a possibility. Maybe Kimi has struck gold earlier on, but we should wait and see.
Yeah,
Krishna's
and
come up with.
George Russell actually said in Q2 on the radio that I have no feeling from the car. I'm going to crash today. And that's the
Hmm,
amount of risk that they all end up taking in qualifying. Yuki Tsunoda's 10th, his third consecutive Q3. That's not too bad, given that,
yeah.
he's in Q3 and he knows he needs time. And at least putting it in Q3 shows to Red Bull that they should give him more time as well. But, the usual, I think Bortoleto is 13th. Let's see where he goes from there. Isaac Hadjar, again, 11th, missed out qualifying by just 200ths of a second, if I remember. And Jack Doohan, outqualified Pierre Gasly for the first time. So commiserations for that. And Oliver Behrman, Soumil, since you mentioned Haas being quick, was 20th and last for the third time in the Grand Prix. And he was also 20th and last in the sprint, but he ended up scoring points as well. So lots to look out for if rain doesn't really liven things up. I think I don't know. If it's a DRS train, would you be at the front of it, at the middle of it, or at the very back of it? What do you choose?
At the front of it. Why not? You've got to be P1. Because if you aren't P1, your tires are under immense pressure from all the dirty air. And remember, grip is a premium here. You cannot afford to lose any of it. So I'd say be like Max Verstappen, get P1. But there's Lando Norris side by side. It would have been if it would have been Oscar Piastri, it would have been even more exciting. But now we can get to see if Lando Norris has gained confidence enough that he can actually attack Max at turn number one. Interesting call. But who are
Yeah,
you
yeah.
picking
But
for
I'll tell
that
you,
one?
I'll tell you, turn number one, what I'm looking for. We still have PS3 and Antonelli, and Antonelli is now going to get the inside line. Okay, and Antonelli said, okay, now I made a note of what I can do at turn one. Although I think that there is. The F1 Academy race got suspended now, clearly, which is what Formula One also sometimes does to keep the track sanitized for the Formula One Grand Prix because that's the main one. Thanks for that update, Krishna. And what I was saying is, although I don't remember what I was saying, yeah, I'm saying Antonelli versus Piastri, a new rivalry that's actually coming up, given that Antonelli was convinced that Oscar Piastri nudged him off the track. But early days, let's see where it goes.
Who are you backing?
Oh, at this moment, I think it's going to be a Max Verstappen win. I think they will
Seriously.
squeeze out the underdog narrative. They're going to take a Max Verstappen win. I also get a feeling that Oscar Piastri will finish second, and maybe Kimi Antonelli, new face on the podium. I'd love that. We've had five drivers on the
Hmm.
podium till date, right? Two Mercedes, no, sorry, two McLaren drivers, George Russell, Charles Leclerc, and Max Verstappen. So Antonelli could well be the sixth driver on the podium this race weekend. What about you, Samuel?
Yeah, I'm going Lando because of strategy. I'm not too sure what'll happen. Oh no, but there's the rain also, and then I wouldn't back him. Wow. Okay. If it stays dry, I'm going Lando because I believe in the McLaren. I believe in the McLaren that much, and I think it's a better car. And at a circuit where there are multiple, I think what 3 DRS zones this time out, and plus so many strategic options as well. I think I'd go for a car that can manage its tires better generally. But if it's tricky conditions, if it does rain, if it's a mixed race, you're not beating Max Verstappen, are you? And that's not any Red Bull bias here. He's just the best driver in the third best car. So when the conditions level things up, I think I'm going for the best driver, no matter what.
Yes, and I'd also go for in the midfield the best team, which is Williams. Abhishek is saying what to make of Williams beating Ferrari on pure pace. I think it's conditions, it's track dependent, clearly. But yes, Ferrari have been struggling in qualifying. Charles Leclerc has made no bones about that. He said, I cannot go quicker than this. You know, the minute he finished the qualifying, I'm always waiting to hear his emotionally loaded message to Brian Bossie. And he's like, that's it. I cannot go quicker than this, guys. I have pulled out everything I can. I'm satisfied with the lap, but am I satisfied with our performance? No, we need to go quicker. We need to be higher up in qualifying, and we've seen that's what Ferrari are lacking. Which is why I said I want to see what Lewis Hamilton is able to do with this. He made the right tire call yesterday. Ferrari
Yeah.
wanted to give him the medium. He chose the soft. Okay, yeah, there we go. And key question: when are we doing our post-race live stream tomorrow, Soumil? I think tomorrow night-ish, right? I guess so.
Yeah, I think we're discussing it live right here because this question did come on our WhatsApp group. And because all of us have been so engaged, we haven't been able to answer it. Interesting question. Normally, at this point, we would have had all four of us. So, Kunal, myself, Sundaram, and also our producer, Sarang. And this is something we discuss off air, but you get into listen to the whole conversation live. I don't know. Evening would be nice, right? Because we're in the afternoon together doing fan code, which is where you'll also catch us this weekend, by the way, on the Gearbox podcast, and that'll be a crazy fun episode where we just talk about driver power rankings from the season so far. That'll be crazy, but yeah, we'll see. I think sometime tomorrow, and the best way to solve
Sometime.
this is to click on the notification bell when you subscribe to the Inside Line F1 podcast, because that way you will know when we go live next. And that's a good thing, right? You can then join us, you can then send in your comments, and we can have a really fun chat.
Yes, fun comments in the chat. Krishna saying Ferrari should actually come to the grid safely first. Of course, reference to Leclerc crashing on the reconnaissance to the grid lap in sprint. Hamilton
Yeah.
almost lost it as well, and he was saying, "I'm amazed you guys put me on the inters for that." That was the radio. Abhishek said maybe it's a Mercedes power unit thing at Miami this year. Could well be very high speed circuit, especially through the flows, but it's not just the power unit in at Williams because otherwise they would have done well all these years as well. But yeah, so catch you guys after the race in a few hours after the race. And let's see. I'm also gunning for double points for William Sommel since it's Carlos Sainz. I'm sure you're pretty excited.
Yeah. That would be phenomenal. That's what we're all hoping for. And if you're just wondering what the scene in Miami is like, it's super wet. There are F1 Academy drivers spinning out on the AstroTurf, and they're hardly keeping the car intact. And that's F1 Academy, which has a quarter of the power that a Formula One car has. So when the Formula One guys go in, oh, it'll be crazy. What a
But
race it's going to
but
be.
they also have much lesser grip and tools that are able to extract more grip and performance and so on. But just one thing before we go, we've said this before. We are yet to see a battle for the race lead in 2025 Formula One,
True.
apart from the opening lap, first corner, literally. Krishna's of course said, I can't remember Lando attacking anybody at turn one. I would love to see a battle. And you know what? We usually see two versions of Lando Norris. Quick version that is protected by papaya rules on track. That's what we've usually seen, or a driver who's not quick, and then Oscar Piastri just makes mincemeat of him and everyone else. We've seen the Lando who's quick. Now let's really hope papaya rules don't come into play to spoil the fun up at front.
Exactly. And Abhishek said that if the race is anything like the sprint, you guys will be in for a really long episode. What do you mean, you guys? You will also be here with us, Abhishek. You will also be chatting about all of that and more with all of us and with all the other people joining in, which, by the way, you are all invited to. Krishna said, even in the dry, they spin. That's true. Sure, that's a valid point. But yes, we will we will get to the end of this episode now. It's been a fun conversation. Back soon on the Inside Line F1 podcast. Subscribe to us and make sure that the notification button is on, because that way you'll know when we go live next. Maybe not at 3:30 this evening or this morning or whatever it is, but sometime tomorrow. But we'll catch you. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.